Welcome to this video of D-Day to Berlin. As in all of our videos during COVID, we are using an online game service called Vassal. This can be found at vassal.org. I would like you to know that D-Day to Berlin is not a board game. We are simply using this board game simulator to create videos. When we play a game, we use a remote desktop program called TeamViewer. This can be found at teamviewer.com. I hope you enjoy these videos and find them helpful. Thank you. In this video, we have two infantry divisions facing each other. We have a German infantry division roughly here, facing a U.S. infantry division approximately here. The U.S. do occupy this town, and of course the Germans have a recon unit advanced forward as well. The headquarters unit is shown like this. We have three morale grades. We have poor, we have average, we have veteran. All the armor is assumed to be average. The Germans have decided to attack the hill here. They have made an activation die roll. I'll use this marker to show it on the video right here. They have rolled a 1, so therefore they can advance. The headquarters unit decided to roll for all 4 at the same time, figuring all or nothing, so I will advance them just enough to advance onto the hill. And they are advancing onto the hill, as I just said that. Now the Germans need to take a look to see what they have for supporting units. The Germans have 1 battalion here which can contact them, and the Germans have not moved, so they will be support. The Puma cannot support because it is in the front zone of this American unit. We'll put him right there just to show that. The armored Stug 3 cannot support because it's in the front zone of this unit. Now if this unit wasn't here, the Stug would be able to support because this American unit is not in the Stug's front zone. The front zone is always the one directly to the front. Makes sense. So we know that I'm going to pull these 2 battalions back to the back of their line just to show that they cannot support, and this guy is right here to show he can support. Lastly, the battalion with the headquarters cannot support because it cannot contact or advance into the zone where the defenders are. Now on the American side, the Americans have two battalions defending. As we said, we have a U.S. battalion here. It could support, however, it's in the frontal zone of the Stug, so we'll push them back to show they cannot. And as before, this battalion cannot support because they're in the frontal zone of the armored car recon. The U.S. can claim support from the rear zone, and they can also claim support from this zone. We'll go like that just to remind us. The next step is the Germans have to declare any artillery. They have 1 battery, and we're going to drop it on the Americans right there. Second, the Americans declare if they have any artillery. Now the Americans have 2 batteries on the table, battalions. However, they're going to save 1 for later on in the turn, so they're going to drop 1 on the Germans to counter that. Now it's time to determine how many dice the Germans will roll. Remember, only one side rolls at a time, so the attacker always goes first. I'm going to use this little hit marker here just to keep track of how many dice we use. Now, first of all, whenever you're attacking or defending, you get 1 die for every battalion in your primary zone. So we're going to bump this up to 4 dice to remind us. When it's the American side, they would get 2 dice to start with because they have 2 battalions in their zone. Now we know the Germans can support with this battalion. We'll add 1 there. And a quick note on supports. No matter how many battalions are in a supporting zone, that zone only gives 1 die. So for example, let's say the Puma was in this zone and this infantry was in this zone. That's 3 battalions. They would still only add 1 supporting die. The main idea behind the supporting die is the local artillery from that zone is helping. Also, there may be company strength supporting units going in there as well. So that's the whole idea. So the Germans also have 1 artillery right there on the Americans. They can go up to 6. All right, looking around, that's it because the Stug could not support. We have no more air. The artillery's done. So we're going to roll 6 dice. Now, I'm going to hit this XD6 up here, and I'm going to type in 7 dice. Why 7 dice? because whenever you roll in combat, you always roll one additional die, and this, I believe, we call this the hit determination die. What this die does is puts a little more uncertainty into the combat. In combat, on this game, we always say the last die is the hit determination. Now, if that hit determination number is a 1 or a 2, whichever side is rolling the dice gets to allocate where the hit numbers, the hit dice go on to. Okay, so let's move on. Remember, I'm rolling 7 dice. I'm looking for 1s and 2s on 1s on the first dice. So here we go. All right, I don't see any 1s, period. And if I had gotten any 1s, the 5 right there would have said that the Americans would have rolled first. All right, good enough. So the Germans got no hits. Now the Americans can roll back, and we're going to use this marker for them. They have 2 battalions in the zone. We said they can support from this zone, makes it 1 right there. We said they can support from this zone, and they have 1 artillery support. So they're up to 5 dice. Now the Americans, let's see now. The Americans add 1 die for having a veteran unit. They add another die for facing 1 or more poor units. So let's check my math. 1, 2, artillery is 3, support 4, support 5, facing poor, veteran 7 dice. Very good. So the Americans are going to roll 8 dice. The last die being the hit allocation. Now the Americans are weapon of choice, so they hit on 1s and 2s. Here it goes. And the Americans got no hits either. All right. That's 1 combat round. Nothing has happened. In D-Day to Berlin, you can have up to 3 combat rounds. So we're going to fight the second round. The Germans have decided to keep on going. The Americans are going to hold. Again, the Germans, remember, had 1 die left, so we're going to go with 7, looking for 1s, and bingo. Nothing there. The Americans had 1 additional die, and they're looking for 1s and 2s. All right. The Americans got 1 hit. There's a 2 here on the left. Remember, this last number 2 is a hit allocation. What that means is that the Americans put 1 hit on the Germans, and they decide which battalion takes the first hit. Well, they're going to make it. They're going to say you're going to take that hit on an average battalion, not the poor battalion, because we like fighting the poor battalions. So now the German decides, well, am I going to break off that combat and retire that battalion and retire him, or am I going to let him make a saving throw? In this case, we're simply going to break him off to here. He doesn't leave the zone, but he's now wasted or whatever, so he's not going to be included in the next fight. Okay, so that's 2 rounds, and that's 2 rounds. So now we're going to go back to the German third and last round. Now they were 7 dice, but that's going to be dropped down to 6 because the average battalion that is broke off no longer counts. So now we're looking for 1s again. They finally got a 1. You notice they rolled a 6 on the determination die. So the Americans decide to put it on the average battalion right here, and they're going to make a save. Now they save on a 1, 2, or 3 because they're defending in some sort of rough terrain. So I'm going to hit 1d6 looking for 3 or less. We rolled a 3, so they saved. So now they're going to roll back with their 8 dice. 7 plus 1, 8 dice. Okay, well that's much better. I see 2 hits on the Germans, and the Americans decide where those hits go. We're going to make 1 hit on this unit and 1 hit on the poor unit. So the German at this time has decided he's going to call off the fight and simply retire. We call it break. He's going to break these 3 units to the rear zone, and the fight is over. So I'll just return these guys to a center position at the moment. The fight is over. You say, well, there's no results here. Well, there were some results. Let me clean up the battlefield first. There were some results. First of all, these two artillery units, battalions, show that they have been used for the rest of this turn. And now comes morale markers. Each side, first of all, takes 1 morale marker. I'm going to use these hit counters for that. They take 1 morale marker just for having been in combat. Now the German had 3 units retire, 3 units hit. So he's up to 4 morale markers, and these morale markers are going to be important if he ever has to make division morale check, and at the start of every game turn, it will be very important in determining which side gets first move initiative. Now the Americans also take morale markers. First of all, they take 1 morale marker for being into combat, and if I recall, one of the battalions on the hill took a hit as a morale check, so there we have it too. So for the end of this combat, the Americans have held the hill. The Germans have exhausted themselves, but the Americans have taken a little bit of exhaustion damage as well.